Never up, never down, never. Like a theme in a song, clever. Feeling high, feeling low at the same time. Feels so right, then I'm wrong, hoping I'll be fine. But I get up, I always do. I never think, I always do. Never thought I wouldn't jump, oh what a fool. But if I fall, I will get up again.
Hello, Ivy here. This week's podcast is entitled Performative Action to Public Neglect. Episode 142. An introduction. Looking at the political climate in the UK, and now some concern about the USA's recent developments, reactions of which could end up on the UK's doorstep, not the USA. Not every leader around the globe is as friendly as many claim to be. In the same token, we have a royal family in the UK who don't even try to hide their disdain for the ordinary people of the country. They are here for the spectacle and the pomp and ceremony, and the apparent hierarchy that goes with it. Times gone by, there were attempts to try and pretend that they cared. Many UK people over the centuries have fallen for it big time, and definitely this current family. Ever since Queen Elizabeth died 2 years ago, the remaining ones don't even try to hide their lack of interest in the performative activities that they call work, when boxes on forms have to be completed by people who know better than to question anything. Just write what you are told, so to speak. Now they, i.e. the British royal family, do next to nothing. Not seen for days on end at any kind of function, unless it involves so-called celebs or important people being present, and therefore a few cameras there taking shots to appear in the media. It is all about dress up. None of the British royal family actually have much as what is regarded as intelligence. They just were allowed to go to expensive schools and colleges and universities because of the family they came from. They have zero interest in the people of the country. The next person in line to be king has even less intellect than his father, and he knows but does not care. He still gets the top job in his eyes, so he's not concerned who likes him or not. He gets his own way all the time because he's a spoilt man-child. These people, and they exist in far too many countries and corridors of power and influence, and all belong to the top tier in the societal tier system. Royalty in the UK is who apparently represents the UK as its figurehead family. Then we have elected officials who are linked up with more than the odd questionable people, and money and contracts exchange hands and nothing is said. Or if it is more tokenism, because, not least, the senior elected officials all have their heads in the trough of nice contracts, and everyone just keeps everyone's back safe, so that they all benefit. Then there is media, who are no more than the propaganda team for the monarchy, because they too make money from the people they target, to run down into the ground, or cause them to suffer severe mental illness, or in some cases, the person or people who they target have ended their own suffering. So the monarchy and the establishment, which includes police, lawmakers in the courts, media who report on news in such a way that influences public opinions about what they are told daily, is the truth. So they believe it because it appears every day. And it's been happening for the last 8 years in this latest bout. When one member of the monarchy family recognized the toxic environment, they escaped and have been treated like runaway slaves since. That couple who left the UK monarchy has not responded to any of the nonsense clickbait rhetoric that the media has been using, particularly in the last 2 years. And it is driving the media around the bend. They go searching for their tax records and claim all kinds of nonsense because they want a reaction and have yet to get it. They are so angry. How dare they be ignored? Now I see them turning in on themselves, and their silent contract with the royals is starting to look a little bit rocky. Not receiving any gossip now, so at some point they are going to try and find a new target from within the family. Looks as if it is likely to be Kate, the once future queen. Not sure that is going to happen. Neither do I think she or her separated or divorced husband are up to the job. The job being sitting on top of a pearly throne, wearing curtains that very few people want, and plastic medals they have never earned in any way, and looking more like children's characters from decades ago, such as the Wooden Tops, playing a scene for children's television. Where is all this leading? Why are the couple who are self-financing and living on another continent treated worse than the most serious criminals out there? Why is someone with 34 felony judgments and so many other judgments allowed to run for and succeed in becoming president? Where's the common decency and standards in politics now? Where are the monarchies gone? Most have gone, and I hope all the rest will follow. More have gone than are still around. I want to write a piece about the breakdown in society in increasing numbers of countries, and I don't think enough people are recognizing what is brewing. I want to write a positive article about how Harry and Meghan are still standing 8 years later, and the establishment are now appearing to turn on their own. No surprises there. Crabs in a bucket will always be prepared to crawl over others to save their skin. I want to make reference to all these shady characters who are in public office and in the monarchy because of their parentage, not based on competence in anything. I want to praise those groups who are still trying to do good in this world. And I hope, when my book is published next year, on the number of vulnerable groups who have been downtrodden by those in powerful positions, are still standing tall, though their numbers fluctuate. Harry and Meghan should be praised for leaving toxicity, because being of the same blood does not make it okay to devalue yourself or dim one's own light in order to make others feel better about themselves. I think the UK is on fragile ground, but no one is talking about it. The idea that some pensioners and increasing numbers of veterans sleep outside every night is beyond disgusting. It is disgraceful. We have elected officials who don't find those kind of issues are worth any more than sound bites. So, as a backdrop to all of that, I have thoughts on about a framework upon which I can build an article and a podcast on the state of our nation, state in increasing parts of the world, and look for the good in society and help build that. And over time, remove those self-serving officials or royals pretending to be there for the benefit of the country, when nothing could be further from the truth. Hence, the foundation of this podcast, and my vision for an article and a video podcast addressing the state of societal decline, whilst highlighting the positive forces within society. And I think it's timely and poignant and needed. So here is a suggested framework based on many scribbled notes to self, which over time in recent weeks has led to some degree to help me to structure a reasonable structure to this podcast, and hope that in embarking on this endeavour, it will create an impactful narrative in someone's mind over time. This next section I have entitled it Standing Tall in a World of Crumbling Institutions. Setting the scene. The objective. My objective is to encourage the listeners and viewers to consider the striking overview of the global and local crises in governance, societal values, and leadership. Those three topics are very much targeted at the people and groups who operate in the top societal tier of increasing numbers of societies. In this case, I emphasise the UK, as I do not feel qualified to comment publicly about the direction of travel of some areas of the world. A glaring bright light is shining on the lack of attention paid to the disconnect between institutions and the people they are meant to serve. Key points to address. The growing disparity between elites, for example, monarchy, political leaders, and ordinary citizens. Examples of disillusionment with leadership in the UK and USA and globally. Contrast the decay of traditional power structures with the resilience of individuals and grassroots movements. The next cluster of my thoughts, the fall of illusions. Focus on the UK monarchy. Examine the transformation of public perception post-Queen Elizabeth II. Analyse the shift from performative public service to visible apathy. Highlight the treatment of Harry and Meghan as a metaphor for institutional toxicity. Think about the role of the media in enabling and perpetuating this cycle. Parallel failures in governance. In the UK, corruption, cronyism, and the neglect of issues like homelessness and veteran care. In the USA, questionable political figures ascending to power despite criminal charges or moral lapses. Globally, the rise of autocratic tendencies under the guise of democracy. The silent contract, media and power. Expose the media's role. Detail how media institutions reinforce the power of monarchy and corrupt leaders through selective reporting and propaganda. Look at examples of media campaigns targeting Harry and Meghan to illustrate how dissent is punished. Think about the media's pivot to other targets when their silent contracts begin to crumble. And what about the cost to society? Think about the manipulation and how it distracts from pressing societal issues like poverty, inequality, and public services. Cracks in the system, shifting narratives. It's important to highlight and take notice how the establishment is starting to eat itself. An example, the media's potential pivot to targeting other royals, like Kate. Note the growing public awareness of these issues, despite the establishment's attempts to control the narrative. The broader implications. Start to consider what these cracks mean for the UK's fragile social and political fabric. And tie it in with global parallels, for example, monarchy abolitions, increasing political unrest. There is hope in resilience. And there are bright spots. Celebrate Harry and Meghan's decision to prioritise their mental health, family, and independence. Highlight the grassroots organisations and individuals who continue to fight for justice, equality, and societal welfare despite systemic resistance. The power of example. Consider the importance of individuals standing up to toxicity, even when it comes from family or powerful institutions. My research over these past 8 years is on a simple but important level, not least because it documents the toxic elements and explores why certain individuals are now travelling down a different path. Or maybe it was one they always intended to join. The publication not only refers to the toxic life forms, but their activities and behaviour traits are confirmed and proven by academic research, carried out over many years. In documenting those who are responsible for the destruction of societal values, running parallel to all that negativity, I choose to document these resilient groups and individuals as part of this narrative of hope. Call to action. Rebuilding trust. We need to think of actionable steps for citizens to hold power structures accountable. Encourage the support of grassroots organisations and independent journalism. The role of positive media. Use whatever platform that we all have or have access to shine a light on the good in society and inspire change. Highlight the importance of shifting focus from glorifying power to uplifting humanity. Conclusions. Looking forward. I recognise the challenges, but also celebrate the resilience of individuals and communities. I hope When you have finished watching or listening to this podcast, you will leave with your thoughts and with a vision for a better future and a sense of personal responsibility to contribute to positive change. I have had, and I'm sure most people have had, moments to reflect on things that have entered our minds, our thought processes most deeply. In my case, it is whether it's the media frenzy against Harry and Meghan, the apathy of the monarchy, or the resilience of those fighting systemic oppression. I have used that stance over recent weeks as an emotion that formed my point to document my thoughts in some way. For example, in a world where institutions, once held in reverence, now crumble under the weight of their own hypocrisy, we are left with questions that demand answers. How did we get here? More importantly, who is still standing tall amidst the chaos? We could describe some of these key events, key points in history, key points in our mind, as being described as real event anchors. They're like markers in the sand. Some examples could be Harry and Meghan enduring media persecution without retaliation. The UK's growing homelessness crisis versus the wealth and apathy of the elites. The audacity of political figures clinging to power despite ethical and legal failings. I question the status quo. Why do we allow leaders to rule through entitlement, not competence? What does it say about society when royalty are praised for dressing up, but the homeless are ignored? How do we reconcile the media's role as both informant and instigator of harm? I'd like to end this podcast by asking you to highlight some of those who inspire you. Resilient individuals, organisations fighting for justice, or even examples of change happening in small ways. While the cracks in the system are widening, they also let in light. That light comes from the Harrys and Meghans of the world, from grassroots movements, and from ordinary people refusing to look away. It's time to nurture that light and let it guide us to a better future. The establishment's aim is to protect the order of things that they have manoeuvred in place. No one else is on their radar unless they are perceived as rocking the boat. UK media is a dangerous group of people who like to think that they work for the royal cartel. The reality is the media is tolerated, and one day you will all discover that those at the bottom of the media food chain are not seen as worthy of keeping out of legal confinement. You are all merely cannon fodder, and the sooner you realise that, the longer your future will last. Otherwise, if you all circle the drain together, pretending you are all having a good time, you will all get to know the find out stage very well indeed. Whilst you may run the risk of all ending up down the drain you have been circling for quite some time now, just be aware the drain will welcome all who end their career journey at the bottom of the media food chain, which includes raw reporters and various daytime TV presenters. But your part of the drain will have a combination of real and or metaphorical chains surrounding you all. There are groups out there in the world advocating for people and groups that those who are supposedly in power do not care about. Increasing numbers of affluent people from historical wealth of their respective families are gaining levels of responsibility without an ounce of competence or knowledge, and too many cases have had worrying involvement in matters outside of the law. In a caring society, none of those individuals would be allowed that level of power. An environment that is creating replicas of a variety of science fiction and or dystopian societies. Environments set in an oppressive regime or totalitarian society. The most frightening thing is that the leaders of each of these clusters of people are very similar to famous leaders of the past, who lacked in intellect and foresight, and who took nations to their knees, and the world basically had to rebuild itself again. Thank goodness for the pockets of good people who want to lift others up by doing good things. Right now, we have clowns and empty heads in positions of power, and we are in danger of going up in a puff of smoke, if it were not for the good people out there. There are more good people than the opposite. The circus is in town, but the audience that attends is forced to attend. The rest of the population is working on resuming sanity again, somehow. We have to start somewhere. In conclusion, I would like to end this podcast repeating 2 paragraphs I mentioned earlier. We have more than played our part, but the world in greater numbers did not want to see what was in front of them. The UK lost its way big time 14 years ago. Certain nations are walking backwards and calling it progress. World War III, if it takes place, won't last years. What we will have, is a dystopian-like society until the circus is recognised as existing, and the circus ringleaders need to be managed out of their dangerous roles. Too many countries have playgrounds which are officially called government bodies and think tanks. A change is going to come. In the meantime, let's think positive things and start to build the building blocks of doing good. The foundation will be strong. There are more than enough out there who did not fulfill their promise. It is their time now to be frontline. We are over here building good building blocks, building a strong foundation. And to repeat what I said earlier, in a world where institutions once held in reverence now crumble under the weight of their own hypocrisy, we are left with questions that demand answers. How did we get here? More importantly, who is still standing tall amidst the chaos? And the other few lines mentioned earlier. While the cracks in the system are widening, they also let in light. That light comes from the Harrys and the Megans of the world, from grassroots movements, and from ordinary people refusing to look away. It's time to nurture that light and let it guide us to a better future. That's the end of this week's podcast. As per usual, I hope I have given you some food for thought, and I look forward to reading your comments in the week ahead. It's goodbye from me. Goodbye from Ivy. Bye.
There's a message drifting in the air. If you listen, you will notice music everywhere. This bridge is made of hope. This bridge is made of hope. In this world of hunger, war, and strife, we can together, all included, build a better life. Made of hope.